So hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. As many of you may know, my name is Chris Lestrino, and I am the founder and CEO of KingsCrowd. We're very lucky to be joined here today by Swarab, who is the founder and CEO of a company called Mindcurrent. Definitely a solution that during this kind of challenging period is actually more important than ever, I think, across many dimensions. And look forward to getting to learn more about their offering, what they're building today, and where they're headed as an organization. So with that, I'd love to hand it off to you to give us a little bit more on your background and what you guys are up to at Mindcurrent.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. And first of all, congratulations on your own success at KingsCrowd. You guys are growing super fast. When we were looking at crowdfunding platforms, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, just about everybody pointed us to KingsCrowd.
Nice.
It's like whoever you go with, make sure you talk to them. And then there you are, Chris. You're talking to us. So I really. I also really appreciate what you're doing, bringing founders, virtually to investors, like as you said, almost every day during the current crisis, because people really want information, and we can't have traditional meetings like we used to. So thank you.
Of course.
So very quickly, my introduction will take only a few seconds. So I'm everything you would expect in a cliche tech founder. I'm ex-Silicon Valley, ex-Wall Street. I'm an immigrant. I have a degree that's both art and science. I went to film school, and my degrees in economics and finance. So essentially, the best way to explain Mindcurrent is that for 15 months and over 3 prototypes, we've been building AI that can predict and prevent stress. And I know most people, when they hear that, they're like, wait, what? Yes. So we've had 25,000 beta users from 40 countries. We've got a lot of things wrong in the first 3 prototypes. But the 4th prototype, which is the one we're raising to put out now as quickly as possible, this is the one that won our local startup challenge. And our city, the city of Beaverton, actually invested in Mindcurrent, and then we just started to take off. So now we are looking to get into market and then get the GA or version 1 out and just start growing customers. And I'm sure we'll go into this in more detail. Mindcurrent's goal is very, very simple. Our goal is to predict your stress at an individual level, and then to do everything we possibly can to prevent your stress so that you just don't get stressed to begin with, which we think is a better solution than dealing with somebody when they're already stressed.
Makes a ton of sense. So I love that, and I think that's really, really important. Can you tell us how you got to this place where you decided to found a company that would try and solve this problem?
Oh, man, I wish I had some super smart answer. I didn't really have a choice. When I had my first daughter, I was at sort of the peak of my corporate career. I think we've been nominated for our 2nd Emmy Award. I was at marketing at Cisco, the networking company at the time.
Sure.
And things were just going fantastically with a house in the Bay Area and all that good stuff. But as soon as my daughter was born and I held her, I immediately knew that I could no longer continue to just help people with money make more money. I had to go to work to help people and find a way to earn a living while doing that. So from that moment, and it took about 3 years after that, Christopher, for me to actually found the company. But from that moment, I knew that I had to use what is my background, which is technology and data.
Yep.
To be able to serve anyone I come across. And then, last year, which we might get into more, last year I ultimately had the opportunity because I found the right co-founders, right? I found the team, and then we could just go for it. So we did.
That's awesome. So very big problem, definitely one that spans many people. So how do we solve this idea of basically predicting when people are stressed and being able to solve for their issues or challenges that are leading to that? Can you talk a little bit about how AI is supposed to help you enable figuring this out?
Oh, absolutely. So I honestly, at this point, Chris, and I might be biased, I don't even know how we would do it without machine learning or natural language processing, or the ability to rely on neural networks. So if you think about an individual, and I think we'll get into the data, given your background, I think you'll enjoy that in a few minutes. But if you think about an individual, we are highly habitual as human beings, and our target market is working professionals I'm sure you'll ask me later, but Mindcurrent is actually going to market as a B2B solution. We sell to the employer or the university if you want to give it to students. We're not monetizing on the consumer. So considering that this is somebody who has a job, they're getting Mindcurrent through their work, right?
Yep.
They have obviously 10 times more than just what you see at their workplace. And the data that they're producing as a person is being produced and they own it, but they're not using it. So the reason we need the AI is I have to look at the individual and their patterns and how accurate I can be in being able to touch them before stress starts to escalate. But I can't look at that just within an organization. If it was just a limited data set, we could run linear regression all day long. We don't need machine learning, right? We don't need pattern recognition.
Sure.
But what the data has shown is that there are similarities, obviously with demographics, but within industries and within job levels. But there are also similarities, as you know, when I say this, it sounds obvious, but it took a while to figure this out, between organization size and geography. Like data stress profiles for individuals working in very different jobs, but at a similar level in New York City, are actually more similar than a person doing the exact same job in Atlanta. And then, of course, take that outside of America and think about it across countries. So there's no way that we could manage this amount of data without bias, without built-in bias, without AI. I actually don't even know how we would do it.
So tell me about the experience as a user. You come to your app and you interact with it. What are the questions that you're asking? How are you basically figuring out their data that you can feed into the system to start to figure these things out?
Yeah, so this is why the 3 prototypes just really, I mean, I'm going to be candid, they just kicked our butt, right? So when you look at the landscape for wellness solutions or mental health or stress, everybody and most of these companies I want to talk well of, because I'm going to partner with them. Even though today they may see me as a competitor, I really don't think they will over time. They're looking at what you do in their app, to use your word, right? Mindcurrent is being delivered as an app for security reasons.
Yep.
It will be on your laptop and your desktop in a few months, and then will be accessible via Slack. The interface for us is actually not the key, and I think you'll see why. So most of the current players or incumbents who've been in the market for 2 to 4 years, most of their recommendations, all of their knowledge is built around how you interact with their app.
Got it.
Here's the reality when it comes to stress. When people pass the threshold in stress, especially if you move into anxiety or a full-blown depressive episode, which can last 3 to 5 days, sorry, right? People don't interact with the app. So we had to flip the model, Chris. We actually had to start with what you would consider passive data.
Yep.
When the user onboards, I'm looking at passive data, like, you know, we're integrated with the Apple Watch. So do you have a smartwatch, right? If so, let me work with that without having to ping you. Let's look at, if you're a working professional, more so than a student, let's look at your calendar without having to ping you, right? Let me understand your demographics and what I expect are your stressors based on your family setup and your job and the continuity of your work, right, within your industry. And then the last piece of data is I could increase the accuracy of prediction and prevention if you engage with Mindcurrent regularly. But if you don't, I can provide service to the best of what I've provided to someone like you. If you engage, I can provide it far more personalized just for you.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. So once you've kind of, let's say that the predictions are really, really good, now you have to build all of these solutions, or are you partnering with others to provide those solutions to them to help them manage their stress?
So the other thing that became apparent to us is that we have to offer a recommendation and think of it as content.
Sure.
Right? We have to offer a recommendation that is highly contextual. It has to be something that helps you reduce your stress for the reasons you've indicated you're stressed, right? And by the way, when you check in on Mindcurrent and you indicate you're stressed, you're doing it with one digit. You're doing it with your thumb in about 5 seconds. So the amount of information I'm working off of in the moment isn't that great. I'm working off of your pattern. So it has to be highly contextual. But the other thing we learned is it has to be extremely brief. So, and this is what separates us. We are not recommending people meditate for 20 minutes, not at all. I would actually say we're in the market of the 88% of Americans who will never meditate,
Yeah.
right? We're doing this in a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes max to get you past whatever is stressing you back into your flow, into your focus, into your creativity. And so that content we had to originally create. But as we're growing, we're going to be syndicating that content from people that have produced it, but in much longer form, right? Because they're having trouble monetizing their wellness content. You know, the expectation, because there's too many providers, is that it's free.
Right.
So I would rather give them, you know, pennies on the dollar for the content if they're willing to just transform that with us into the very short pieces that we need.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. So once you've predicted, now you're providing quick, informed solutions. How do you measure results so that you can go back to the business that's paying you for this service for their employees and be able to say, listen, we're driving towards good results that are improving your employees' behaviors, et cetera?
Yeah, so you're thinking like a buyer. I love it. So one of the reasons that we actually, and this is actually probably going to answer another question, which is what is a primary risk to a business like ours? The number one risk is adoption, right?
Sure, of course.
There's actually a massive, I won't name them because this is public, a massive healthcare provider that spent, and there are a lot of stories around this, over $1 billion on their mental health app that none of their customers use. Because adoption was not their priority. They just wanted to make it available for people that self-selected into wanting mental health help.
Sure.
That doesn't work. For an organization, the two things that we do, the first is that the user's data, the stress they're indicating and how their stress is changing, when they indicate that it's a stress related to work, we anonymize that data and we aggregate it. So the first thing we deliver to the organization that's paying us is this is what stress looks like across your org without any identity.
Yep.
Right? So, I mean, you guys are a good example. You're heading towards being a mid-sized company, right? So mid-size is my target market. So here, Chris, CEO, right? Here is the stress this week, last week, and our prediction for next week across Kingscrowd. And here are the 3 leading stressors for your people. But I will not under any circumstances tell you who those are stressors for.
Got it. So basically those trend lines so that you could start thinking about, are there ways we could solve for this as an organization, et cetera?
Right, because that change is not actually going to come from HR, even though we're implemented from HR. The change we're looking for to reduce stress and to keep your people, the number one thing that people are buying Mindcurrent for is to avoid burnout, is to avoid people leaving their top performers. Because that's, you know this, right? That's exorbitantly expensive, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So this is that visibility that we're creating is for leadership and managers to work on the culture overall.
Got it. That makes a ton of sense. So what is the price point that you charge for kind of per head?
So our pricing is very simple because we want to price to scale over the next couple of years. Also, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we're cash flow positive next year. So there's no need to gouge, customers. Our pricing for organizations that have less than 100 employees is $99. So think of it as if you have up to 99 people, it's $99, right?
Got it. A year or a month?
A month.
Got it.
And then if you have up to 999 employees, it's $999.
Got it.
And then if you're 1,000 or higher, then we'll work with you on what the size of your org is.
Cool. That makes a ton of sense. So pricing model is simple. The experience makes sense. In terms of the buyer, from what you've been able to see in market to date, what do you think kind of the persona of the organization that's going to be buying this type of product will be?
That's, I think, the most difficult thing we've had to come to terms with. The organizations we want to help the most, right, have rampant and deep-rooted stress problems. But unfortunately, their culture doesn't lean towards transparency, right? And we introduce from day 1, really from day 5, because it takes a few days to get the data in. But we introduce from the first week radical transparency in an org. So the organizations that we're working with, And I won't share names, because we're launching in May, but I can tell you what they do. So first responders, there's a police department that will pilot Mindcurrent out the gate, right? Because
Yep.
the help to the individual police officers is entirely private, which is important to police officers. But
Sure.
the view across the department is what the chief of police needs, right?
Yep.
Finance, technology, and healthcare are our three major verticals, and I think you know why. Given
Of
you come
course. Yeah.
through those, right? Right now,
Yep.
what we've seen is a huge boom in requests from the healthcare sector. If we could actually just get Mindcurrent to people that are working their tails off and use mostly the biometrics to measure their stress as they go through what is probably the worst 3 to 6 months of their careers. The best as far as the service they want to provide, but the stress is off the charts. So our key verticals are those that are high stress, but my target customers are the ones that are actually looking to hire. They're not the ones where people are just drowning in stress. Those companies aren't ready for this yet.
Yeah. Right. It would almost be overwhelming to to get all that feedback, right?
I actually had to pitch an organization like that. And the head of HR, she physically was afraid when we showed her the stress across the org
Yeah.
from our demo. And she's like, I would never show people what is stressing us in our organization. I'd get fired. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, you wouldn't. So not that persona.
Got it. Makes a ton of sense. So obviously, you guys are helping to try and create transparency and understanding around underlying stress issues within an organization and then providing solutions to that. Now, I know that probably the largest winner to date kind of in this wellness space going the B2B route is Calm and their meditation app, and they've become this billion-dollar company by selling through and providing it to employees. Tell me about how this differentiates to that, how you get them to adopt multiple services, both, now you're the predictive component and then there's this other component that they have to pay for. There's only so much HR budget. So how do you fit in within that kind of universe?
Absolutely. So I obviously pay a lot of attention to the industry, and the industry is still very small as far as companies that actually have a solution that's driving revenue, right?
Yep.
There's hundreds of solutions that don't have revenue, and unfortunately, they probably won't make it through this next downturn.
Yep.
So I'm actually going to give you a slight comparison. The winner in the B2B market for meditation or mindfulness is actually Headspace. Headspace has actually outpaced Calm entirely when it comes to B2B. It's in the B2C space that Calm is maintaining some of that leadership because of their connections with celebrities, right? And just the overall appeal of LeBron James's campaign, you know what I mean? Or Matthew McConaughey. But the actual business model of Headspace, who's been around much longer, right?
Yeah.
Is far more sound because Headspace for Work is already in their third year. So they're deep into organizations. I mean, some of our investors are from Nike, right? Because we're in Beaverton, just south of Brooklyn. And Nike offers Headspace to all their employees. Here's the difference. Active stress reduction, somebody who wants to reduce stress and they get up wanting to do that, is that 12% of the market that's super loyal and will resonate with Headspace and Calm and Insight Timer and all the other major providers.
Yep.
I want to partner with Headspace because I think their content for that market is superb, right? We're a little small to do that, but we're starting the conversations.
Sure.
More importantly, what I want to do is help identify for my users that you might actually be in the introductory phase of mindfulness. You might actually be in the 12%, right? And not the 88% that won't use Headspace or meditate. And if I can do that, then the recommendation I'm driving to them, because it's private, no one's gonna, could be, hey, here's some introductory content from our partner, Headspace. Would you like to try it? And if they would, then I'm going to look to build that relationship more aggressively.
Gotcha.
Of, hey guys, we would like to bring you in because some of our users do want meditation.
Sure.
I just want to recommend it at the right time in the week and the day when they're telling me they want it.
Makes a lot of sense. And so is another component of your business model and what you're planning on is basically doing almost these referral marketing deals, if you want to call it that, where it's like, oh, part of your problem is you haven't been eating healthy and you've been whatever, you should go join Noom, or you should go join this service or that service.
So, I mean, the thing we have to be careful of is privacy,
Yep.
right? I'm willing to do it with a full-blown partnership. I'm not willing to do it in a marketplace scenario, right? Because
Sure.
we are privacy first, right? We do not use PII for anything. I actually, I mean, Chris, you're a great example. If I use your demographic, I was looking your profile up, right?
Yep.
If I use your demographic and profile, I'm pretty confident I could predict 3 things a day that could help you with your stress in the moment without ever having to reference that it's Chris Lestrino, CEO of Kingscrowd. I don't need the personal identity. When we go to a marketplace proposition where we're just offering up, services from other providers,
Sure.
you can't build that without providing customer data. And I don't want to do that. So I think for us, it'll always be a few providers in each category and just working with the best. And honestly, we just have to take a hit on our margins for our customers that want that, so that they're not having to pay a premium for it.
Got it. No, I think that's the right approach. And end of the day, if you create a great experience and you're providing access to all of these other solutions, or an easy way to find those solutions to improve whatever the outcome may be, that likely just drives usage for you and having more employers want to utilize your product anyway. So you're sticking to the core, what you do well.
And so far, to be honest, all of the folks we're talking to for partnerships, the 4 major pillars, right, of our industry are, like you mentioned, it's sleep, fitness, nutrition, and mindfulness.
Yep.
Right? Mental health has not earned its own pillar yet. It's still bundled in mindfulness. We're talking to leaders in each of these areas, and they're all open to working with us on a privacy first basis.
Cool. So in terms of funds raised from this current round on Wefunder and what you've done to date, what is the plan to utilize those funds to kind of continue and roll out?
So, I mean, I think, as you can imagine, this isn't our first rodeo, right? My co-founders, Dr. Drew Brazier is a performance psychologist. He's built and successfully exited 2 clinics, right? Daniel, our CTO, has built and sold 3 tech companies, the last one IPO'd. So we were not going to raise funds until we had a product that people wanted to buy. So we've been bootstrapped until now, except for the one investment from the city of Beaverton, right? Which was an award technically, even though it's a convertible note. So we're past the first round in our raise. And as you know, this is regulation crowdfunding, so I can't give all the details separate from Wefunder, right? But as we look to scale past the 107,000 we've already raised, right? I think you'll see on our profile, 70 or almost 80% of the funds are going towards product development to get the beta out sooner than what we were hoping because of the market demand that's just come on. And then to get GA or to get version 1 out by July, if not sooner. Most of the money is going that we're not putting these funds towards sales and marketing. We're just going to be bringing a few folks on board for, I would say, more for customer success, because we're going to have more customers than we expected in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, and that's a good thing. But you also need a few more hands to manage it.
Got it. And for those who are watching, feel free to enter some questions into the Q&A section here at the bottom of the webinar. But to that point that you just mentioned, can you talk a little bit about how this environment and the coronavirus and all of this is actually impacting your business, in many ways, for the benefit that it's even more needed today than it was maybe a few weeks ago?
Yeah, and so I think, if you don't mind, Chris, I'm gonna handle this in the 3 sort of stages that I just saw happen firsthand.
Please.
The very first thing that happened was just like a big old pause button, right? on the fundraising, on our marketing, even on our product dev, even though our entire dev team is remote. Everybody just wanted answers, and nobody really knew what to do. So I would say that as a small company, as a startup, we went through probably a 3 to 5 day pause. And then we saw investors continuing in the Wefunder. Again, I can't disclose amounts, but you can see it,
Sure.
right? Wefunder is completely public. So like last night, another person just invested from Canada. I can tell you that much, right? So investments have picked up again. Product dev is going at full speed because the devs are actually really happy to have the work because some of the larger customers they work with are paused. And then the last part is what you mentioned at the beginning. Demand has just exploded, right? Because people are looking past the healthcare crisis, which I think is the right thing to do, right? And they're looking at the financial crisis that's going to follow. Sure, we will have a lot of people losing their jobs, but the folks that are working, which is still the majority of working adults, right?
Sure.
They're going to be phenomenally stressed, and they're going to be stressed all the way through 2020 into 2021 as their companies are struggling to survive. And even the ones that are in a good position are looking to use the opportunity to grow super fast.
Yep.
So we have to prepare ourselves to manage these customers well, right? And to build that continuity and not grow faster than what we can manage.
Makes a lot of sense. I definitely understand that. Got it. So one of the questions that's come in from the crowd is, okay, if I want to try and use this product, I want to experience it, be a beta user, is that possible?
I don't think we even touched on this. I mean, we went straight to how we run the business.
Sure.
So Mindcurrent is available on both app stores. We're actually kind of lucky. On the Apple App Store, we have a 5-star rating.
Nice.
So at least, and but Chris, that might be because it's free. So to consumers, Mindcurrent will be free, and it will continue to be free all through 2020. We might even extend that into 2021, right? Our business is B2B. And so our goal at this time is actually we're extending our free trials, even on on the marketplace. So like we were going to have a premium version, all of that is gone. For 2020, anybody can get Mindcurrent on Android or Apple completely for free. And if they think that it's right for their work, we'd love the introduction into their university or their hospital or their,
sure.
Their company where they work. But if not, we're just happy to continue to build a more accurate model for that person and use them to help serve our paying customers. So we're fully committed to having however many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of free consumer users, because they're helping us get better to serve our paying customers. So that's an important part of trying Mindcurrent. You can always try it for free.
Another question for you that came in is, what is the biggest pain point you heard during this product development lifecycle, and how have you improved on that?
So this was actually a disastrous pain point in that we actually parted ways with some of the folks we had started with because it was clear to us in the data that building the algorithm and model entirely on app usage or engagement was leaving way too much data off the table. And we had team members who were insistent that the goal was to keep people in the app or the experience as long as possible. My co-founder fundamentally disagreed with that. So we lost months over this of actually bucking the trend. And like I said, a lot of providers out there, they swear by this.
Sure.
Is that if you use our app, you'll feel better. You should use it as much as possible. We don't follow that philosophy. So that was a huge pivot. The other was when we pivoted away from consumer and went entirely after a B2B business model, which frankly, is far more lucrative because all of our users we onboard are already paying customers in B2B. Right. So those, I think, were the two biggest learnings, is to learn how to deliver value with minimal engagement from the user upfront, and how not to charge consumers were probably the two biggest pain points, or two biggest learnings. And the only other thing I'll mention, which is actually related to what's happening with COVID-19, is that we are now seeing people asking for Mindcurrent or potential partnerships from countries we had sort of marked as further down the line. Right? I'm an Indian who grew up in China. I grew up in Hong Kong. And both cultures are perfect for what we do, but not now, right? We expected inquiries from Australia and the UK, which are happening, but folks are reaching out from India. And that for us was very new of, well, I mean, it's the same language. We would just have to make some cultural adjustments on the content. But we never wanted to think about India as a potential market for 2020, but we have to think about it.
Gotcha. Last question for you here. Something I like to ask all founders is, as you think 2-3 years down the road, what does success look like for Mindcurrent?
I mean, we built this company for a service, right? And the idea was that we could build the world's largest repository of stress that's protected by privacy, right? Because, and also, I mean, we're open source. So a whole bunch of other folks will build businesses off of what we're doing. So I think our vision 2 to 5 years out is to get to those 1 million active users, to get to those 1,000, customers of all sizes, small, mid-sized,
Sure.
and enterprise, right? But I think more importantly, to get to some of the more severe use cases that we would only be able to do once we have the irrefutable evidence in that particular area of stress. So that I think is our vision 2 to 5 years out, is to reach as many people with the service as possible, be patient with the monetization. And then I think ultimately, what happens with a company like us in an industry that's growing so fast is somebody realizes their investment in this area just isn't paying off after 3 to 5 years. And we're a much better solution, for their much larger customer base.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been incredibly informative, really helpful in understanding kind of the use case and how you go to market and what kind of the investment thesis here, which is you're investing in essentially a wellness company that's going B2B. It's been a proven model that I think is working on some level, but I think you guys are kind of taking it to that next level, which is really, really interesting. And it's probably a needed source in order to kind of improve cultures in workplaces and kind of continue to move forward on this continuum of providing wellness solutions within the workplace, which I definitely think is a growing trend. And this is a really unique way of kind of attacking that problem. So definitely an interesting opportunity. Mindcurrent.io on Wefunder. I know you guys have kind of basically sold out that 107. Keep an eye on it though. And hopefully moving forward, there will be additional opportunities to invest.
Thank you, Chris. And again, thank you for what you guys are doing. A lot of folks have a lot of good things to say about Kingscrowd.
Excellent. I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you so much for the kind words. And everyone have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And we will be back tomorrow with another webinar. Take care, everyone. Bye now.